Are we live?
We are live, boys.
Okay, great. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Yep, I can see it on the channel now.
Yep, we are live.
You
Okay, I
live?
can see it.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Just check the audio video, guys. Zophar 1, 2, 3.
Guys, audio video is okay in the chat. Alright.
People
Bakar,
ask
you want?
what jersey you're wearing, Bakar.
Leeds. I'm on Leeds this week, so it's a Patrick Bamford jersey.
Nice.
Bakar, you want to tweet so that we get some more?
I've done it. Yeah, I've tweeted.
Done. Awesome. Okay, let's go. Oh man, final part of the season. How do you guys feel?
Nostalgic?
You want to actually, let's just talk about that when we move into the actual pod.
Yep.
Bakar, I think your sound is a little off. Can you just say something?
Audio testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah,
good
now
to me.
good.
I think
We're good.
we're
Let's
just
go.
good to go.
Okay.
I'm just starting up. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the 36th episode of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. We are recording ahead of Gameweek 38, the final game week of the season. I'm your host, Zophar, and I'm joined for the last time this season by Twitter statsman, Big Man Bakar. It's been amazing podding with you this season, brother. How's it been?
Thanks, Soph. It's been a pleasure, honestly, talking to you guys this season. It's honestly been surreal. I mean, a lot of people, they ask me whether we've ever met in real life, whether we're real life friends. Most of them initially weren't even aware that we weren't from the same country. I mean, a lot of people still take me as an Indian. But it's been great, actually. Just to clarify, we've been friends over WhatsApp for 3 or 4 years.
Longer than that, much longer than that.
5 years has
I
been.
think maybe on
we've
WhatsApp,
been
5, 6
friends
months.
on
Twitter, I think when was that KN season? I think that was like 2014, 15. But do you remember which year you were ranked second? Or
Fourth, yeah, that was 14, 15. 15, yeah. 14,
I remember
15.
interacting with you. I think you posted on the scout forums that you wanted somebody to take over your team because you didn't have time
No,
to manage it.
but we were acquaintances. We weren't really friends,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, fair enough.
Exactly. So, I mean, thanks for bringing that up, by the way. So, I mean, we all make mistakes. But, I mean, it's been great. So we actually had that chemistry for like 3 or 4 years, and it's because of the fact that we've been friends over a while that we share this camaraderie, which is very refreshing to see between people on both sides of the border. And I've thoroughly enjoyed playing this game week and podding with you guys. Honestly, it's been a delight.
Pleasure has
Of
been
course, you
ours.
thoroughly enjoyed it. It's up to your game as well, in terms of external activities, So of course you've enjoyed it. How can't you not enjoy that, Bakar?
Both on and off the field. They're on and off the field.
The boy has played well.
The boys played well. Yes, exactly. I think that was episode 4 or 5.
Yes,
this year.
one of the first 5 episodes for sure.
One of the first 5 episodes. It's been great though, man. I'm glad we started this whole thing together. Touch wood. I'm hoping it stays on for a long time. I don't feel the want to stop anytime soon. So let's hope we keep it going. In terms of the camaraderie that we share also, I just wanted to actually talk about a little story to our listeners as well. I remember around 2 years ago, it was the year I was getting married as well. And, in India, the wedding celebration is a pretty big deal. And you end up spending a lot of time planning that shit. And, with FPL, it's either all or nothing for me. And I just didn't really have time to play the game as a casual. And I just handed over the team to these boys in AK. AK is a friend of ours from the chat for a couple of months, and they managed to just handle it. They made the template moves. It worked. And I was able to finish around the 10K. I gave you all the team between December and Jan, was it?
I don't know. I thought we were not allowed to speak about that. I thought that information was highly classified.
That's okay. It's all good. It's all good. I think it's about time we can let go of the information. I do remember though, but that after my honeymoon, which I spent in New Zealand, thanks to Trigger Lips, he actually gave me a lot of information about that country. I came in, felt what things were going like for a month or two, and then it was that season where I was actually behind my main mini league rival by around 50-60 points, and it was that double game week where everybody went Sane triple captain, and I managed to go Aguero triple captain. Sane did nothing. Aguero got like 50-60 points as a triple captain. Managed to chase him down in one game week. So yeah, fond memories. Yeah, fond memories. And thank you for handling that team at that time. I think that's what just FPL and brotherhood is all about.
For sure.
If you weren't married, do you think you'd still have the liberty of leaving your team for two months behind and just chilling like you did earlier? Now that you've become more of a celeb.
I don't know. I mean, priorities. It's got me off guard. That's 2 weeks in a row now. Bakar's done that to me. Well played, sir. Well played. Bakar, Zoff, how's the experience been for you, man?
It's been so much fun. And it's had it a lot, especially because usually, I watch games with friends, discuss with friends. This year largely has been spent in isolation, but it hasn't been felt like that. Because talking to you guys and then talking about the pod on Twitter to other people, it's added a big social element and interaction to me, which has enhanced my experience of the game a lot. So initially I was a bit apprehensive before starting the pod, maybe I'll say something on the pod and I'll change my mind later on, but I think it's actually helped me structure my decisions better.
Nice. Yeah. So all in all, I'm glad that we started this thing. Actually, it's so underrated that we have something to do when it comes to FPL, right? I mean, I wrote an article on it today as well. Now I was thinking about it because most other people, who are cooped up at home in this pandemic, they don't have as many engaging activities or outlets like we do when it comes to FPL. So I just think it's great that we have something to do, whether it's chatting FPL or looking at stats or looking at highlights. I just think it's a very healthy hobby that we have. So yeah.
Right. And that's a part of the reason I know I said I wouldn't play the Euros, but I'm just wondering what I'm going to do all day. I mean, it just gives you something to discuss, right? Just like, should I do this transfer? Should I change this captain? Because Euro has that thing where you change captains, right? Every day. So
it's a healthy distraction, I think.
I think so. Well, normally I'd be busy with work, busy with something else. I think there's not going to be much to do in the summer. I think India is going to be this way for at least another 2-3 months. So I'm tempted more so than I was definitely 2 months ago.
So for me personally, this is I've been writing and podding with you guys for a season now. This is probably the first time this season where I've actually felt a bit drained. With the quick turnarounds and everything, and I had to write as well. And it gets tough with the matches late at night, and then you have to write and produce content the very next day. So I'm actually looking forward to a bit of a break. But I've decided to do the Euros, and I will be doing the Euros content as well. Because I know, for me a break is like maximum 10 days, and I know that I'll be back into it again within 10 days time. So I mean, I can't do anything half-arsed. If I'm like playing the game, then I will be researching for it, and might as well write if I'm putting behind the hours for research.
It's the competitive streak, isn't it? I mean, so there was the season that I took a break. I completely went off FPL and didn't play the game for one whole season. And that was after having 3 spectacular seasons. But I was starting up a business at that time. And I was like, if I'm not doing this full-fledged, I don't want to do it. By the way, Sanjay has sent us a super chat. Sanjay, we've blocked that. I've pasted that in my notes. We'll answer that at the end of the pod with the Q&A. Right now, we're just chatting FPL. We'll do the question and answers at the end of the pod.
Right. Should we get started?
And before we start, more on FPL in this season. If there's anyone out there who wants to, read about this season, there's a brilliant article written by Pranil Platerizer on FF Scout. You should definitely check it out. It's one of the best reads of the season. I really, really liked it. Well done, Pranil.
And it's free to read, right?
Yeah.
It's not members restricted.
No, it's not members restricted.
It's free to read, guys. Definitely give it a look.
I'm blushing here because I feel like Big Man has been practicing his charm on some other ladies, and he's pretty much in the zone. He's in form at the moment. So
you're still the prettiest one of them all.
I don't think my wife will agree, but let's go.
Cool. Let's get started with our sponsors.
Yeah.
DreamSetGo is a global portal for fans to gain access to sporting events around the world. Accommodation, flight tickets, hospitality, stadium visits, everything can be tailored exactly to your requirements. They also do celebrity experiences. I forgot to put the slide up. They also do celebrity experiences, which include masterclasses with your favorite sports celebrity or something as simple as birthday shoutouts. You can find links to the products in the description below. The FPL Wire is a part of the Fantasy Scout Network, and all stats used in this podcast are taken from the FFS members area. Please sign up if you haven't already.
So thanks to OneFootball for sponsoring today's stream of the FPL Wire as well. If you guys don't already know, it's an app that's available both on Android as well as iOS, and it's completely free to download. Click on the links in the description below. You can follow news about all your favorite teams as well as general news when it comes to the top 5 leagues. I'm hoping and guessing they have some information about the Euros as well. It also has a lot of stats about every game, including those relevant to us as fantasy managers, such as shots in the box, shots on target, and loads of others. It even has short video clips where you can check out some of the best goals and player and manager interviews. Download now if you haven't already. And if you guys don't already know, we've created an FPL Wire league. I think most of the people in the chat should have joined that league. So just going to announce this week's winner. This week's winner is Divya Ramadhin, who's also ranked at 3,500 overall. So congratulations, Divya. It's been a great season for you, and you win a shout out from Shreyas Iyer. Please get in touch with us on the fplwire@gmail.com to collect your prize. Now, the winner in Gameweek 38 wins a shout out from the Aussie batsman all-rounder Brad Hodge. He's notched up 33,000 domestic runs, and he was a big part of the Australian team as well. So yeah, if you're the best manager in Gameweek 38, you win a shout out from Brad Hodge. All right, taking you guys to the agenda for today. Sorry. I don't even know if we have an agenda today. We're just going to freestyle this pod. We're just in a happy, slightly emotional space because it's the last part of the season. We're going to be talking about early team news and team leaks and what you need to be careful about. We're going to be looking at the season just a tiny bit, looking at what our seasons were like, what we did right, what we did wrong. And then we're going to end the pod with the hot fixtures and the captains. We're going to be looking at all the games, and there's a lot of people who are chasing in mini leagues. So what punts we like, how we think the games are going to go, stuff like that. After that, we're going to be talking about our own teams and the Q&A. So let's talk about early team news and team leagues first off. Why don't you start?
So the reason why I wanted to discuss this, I was actually caught off guard last week. I was starting Greenwood and I was planning to save my transfer. So there was this team leak from the guy who claimed to be a columnist for one of the Manchester United newsletters or something, stating that Greenwood was on the bench. So what I did, if I had already made a transfer, I probably wouldn't have taken a hit on the basis of that. But I had a free transfer remaining with Jota sitting on my bench. So I swapped out Jota for Rafinha and I put Greenwood on the bench. So I was very lucky that the move didn't backfire. I actually gained 1 point, but watching Greenwood in that fixture was painful. Extremely painful. It feels weird in your stomach, like you've been tricked, duped, made a fool of. So it's a very bad feeling, and I don't want anyone of our listeners to go through that. A lot of guys who listen to our pod, they're first time FPLers. So and we're going to have 20 team lineups potentially on this Sunday. So I wanted to talk about that, how to filter out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, what we should look for, which journalists are more credible, what we should ignore, and stuff like that. So, Bakar, you as a victim of JJ Gate in the past, why don't you start off?
Yeah, this is something, I'm fully expecting chaos 1 or 2 hours even before the deadline. So it's very important that the FPL managers, they stay vigilant and skeptical to what information is coming in. It's very important to sort of filter out what is reliable from the information which is likely to be basically based on nothing concrete, because these are very crucial decisions which will they could be major decisive factors in the big swings of the mini leagues. So people need to be vigilant and watch out for credible information.
So what do you mean by credible information? I think let's give a certain guideline. I think if you're looking at journals or people from The Athletic or who have a verified Twitter account, I think those guys are less likely to spread fake news. So probably listen to that, because I got lucky on my free hit in 36, was it? Yeah, 36. Where I managed to get information about Mahrez, Foden, Stones not starting, and that was actually Sam Lee, who's the athletic correspondent for Man City, and he was able to provide that news. So if you're looking, if somebody is just telling you that this guy is starting and this guy isn't, don't take their word for it. Ask for the source, ask for a screenshot, and then make your changes. So there's that. So definitely look at journalists and credible people first. Any other advice that you guys have?
So first of all, a lot of people, it's very different last year. I remember the Game Week 38 last year, I played my free hit and we got team news from everywhere, right? We got news that Salah, Mane, bench. I remember making 9 transfers to go with 5 minutes before deadline, but that was primarily due to FPL Rockstar. Now, the way FPL Rockstar operates is the Premier League issues the team sheets 15 minutes early to its media partners via a portal, and that's what Rockstar has access to. So now they have changed the deadline to 90 minutes. We will not be able to get any sort of confirmed news from Rockstar. So that's out the window. So our only real source is going to be, I think, journalists, who we can really look to. And first, I think the first thing you should look for is a pretty simple one. The journalist should preferably have a blue tick. Ultimately, don't trust these guys who a lot of times people make fake accounts. There are also certain people who get a laugh out of posting fake news, posting fake lineups, fake team sheets. So watch out for certain accounts which do that. So we personally will not be looking to retweet something until we are very sure it's concrete, because you never know it. You can't be sure about these things, and I don't want to be responsible for anyone.
This can potentially decide mini leagues.
Yeah, it could backfire big time. It's something which needs to be taken very seriously.
Right, and what is going to happen, I think the United news is going to be very important this week, because we are expecting a lot of rotation at United. A lot of people are looking for City for the last game week punt. So just be careful among the sources which you follow. Look for the credible guys, and it's not very easy to say blanket don't trust team news, right? I'll give you a scenario now. What happened to me now, game week 37. Now the Greenwood thing, if I saw that information, let's say Greenwood was benched, I'd be feeling just as worse. It's a bit of a damned if you don't, damned if you do, right? Because once you have that information and you feel, and let's say Greenwood get benched, you don't act on it, you feel you haven't taken advantage of that leg up which you might have. So you have to balance both things.
Yep. And also just one bit of advice, because probably you're going to have this news in the last 30 minutes before the deadline. Now, what I've noticed that people do when there is information and there's a scramble is that they don't have a set plan in their own head with regards to what they want to do with their own team. So, play out certain scenarios in your own head, have a plan in terms of which direction do you want to go. And in the last 15-20 minutes, don't be panicking and going on Twitter and asking, what should I do? Should I do this with my team? Should I do that with my team? Just trust your instincts, look at those fixtures and make that move. So I wouldn't be asking anybody in Game Week 38. You have all the data and information with regards to the Premier League stored in your subconscious. So don't be asking in Game Week 38.
Exactly. I mean, for me, the planning needs to go in today and tomorrow. People need to have contingency plans for their team. For example, players like, for example, I own Mahrez. I think he's a big risk to get benched. Similarly, for someone with Bruno, Greenwood, Shaw. I mean, these are the kind of players you need to, pre-plan that exit plans for these kind of players need to be laid out before in your team if you require them, because these aren't the kind of players who are absolutely nailed to start this week. So people need to plan in advance.
Correct. Have plans. I think having the plan is the only thing you can do.
Exactly. You don't want to be in a situation where you panic last minute because you sort of suddenly don't know what to do with your team.
Right. Pranil, I noticed this mug you're drinking of. Very cool black mug. Would you like to show us?
I just want to give a little plug to a friend of ours. Also, this is the only thing I can flex this season. You see those finishes, top 200, top 100. It's the only thing I can flex this season because I'm sitting right now at 688,000. I've had a miserable season. But this is actually pretty cool if you've had a good season, if you finish in the top 10,000 or the top 1%, or even won your mini league. So you should actually check out @FPL merch. You should check out his Twitter account. He's got lots of mugs and trophies, etc., that you can award to probably somebody winning your mini league or gift to a friend who's had a really good season. So I think just something worth checking out. I've supported him ever since he ran his first campaign, and he was kind enough to send this mug to me, and it's pretty good. I drink coffee from it every morning. It's a little vain, but why not celebrate what
are you drinking coffee now?
No, definitely not drinking coffee right now.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Anything else to talk about in this section, guy? I don't think there are any questions really from the chat towards it also.
I mean, the only thing is, I mean, if you're active on Twitter, there are certain accounts that you follow for team news who've been fairly reliable in the past, but I don't want to take the responsibility of naming those accounts. And it's our listeners' judgment call in terms of what they want to follow and what they don't want to. But nothing is as reliable as journalists, so just manage that.
Correct. The journalists have some credibility, right, Bakar?
Not if they're called Jamie Jackson.
Had to get that in. Right.
Nice one.
Right. So let's just start with the season analysis. Now, these are images we have taken from FPLOptimize.com, a very cool website where you can do.
Shout out to Sartap. He's pretty active in the Twitter community as well, and he's actually a lot of useful tools on their website. So I just thought we'd scrape some data from the analysis that he gives us.
Right. So our team of the season is Bakar. So this is not his favorite players. These are the players who have contributed the most points to his team. Why don't you walk us through?
Mine or LR's?
LR's up first.
Okay.
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I've managed to get only 190 points from Salah this season. I've capped him only 6 times, and I managed to get 176 points from Fernandes, and I've capped him only three times. Now, I managed to get 74 points from Raheem Sterling, and I managed to get 77 points from Kevin De Bruyne. And that was very early season where I punted and went on triple city attack in my game week through Wildcard, and I persisted with them for a very, very long time. I think that's been one of my downfalls this season, because I keep talking about upside chasing, and upside chasing is primarily about being brutal with these big hitters who are not performing and switching them around, right? So I don't know why I was being stubborn. I was absolutely overconfident. I was stupid. It was a wrong decision to persist with these guys for a long time. Yeah, in hindsight, I'm probably talking in hindsight, and you can say that City are the team who scored the most amount of goals in the league. But, you noticed in a couple of games or in 3 games that it's not really clicking for them. And I still managed to persist with them for a long, long time, which is something I shouldn't have done. And one thing, we have Heung-min Son who scored around 230 FPL points this season. I managed to get 50 points from Son this season. So I wasn't able to jump onto that bandwagon this season early. So which is one of the reasons why I've had an absolute shambles of a season. In defense as well, I managed to get Stones and Cancelo. You see, I have no Ruben Dias as well. So I always went for the flair pick, and it did not work out this season. So that's something I didn't jump on, that didn't work.
Could you read out everything for our audio guys? Just read out the whole team first.
Yeah, so these are the guys who've given me the most points this season. I have Martinez as keeper, who's given me 160 points. He's been consistent in my team for most part of the season. That is something I'm very happy that I got right very, very early. I remember Bakar talking me into it on the Game Week 3 wildcard as well. So thank you for that, Bakar. I think you managed to get his penalty save.
Yes, I owned him from his very first game.
Yes. So that's something that worked out in my favor. In defense, I managed to get 61 points from Stones, 60 from Target, 54 from Cancelo. So yeah, I managed to get some points from Stones and Cancelo, and I managed to get a good chunk from Target. Target was actually one of my picks of the season in terms of something that's worked for me. But, none of the more important guys like Ruben Dias, Dallas are in there. So I've been stubborn trying to find the differential, and the obvious picks were there for the taking, and I did not take them. In midfield, again, I mentioned that I have gotten only 190 and 176 points from Salah and Fernandes respectively. When we are going to look at your slides, you'll realize that you've got a lot more points from the more template picks, So you need to be careful in terms of how long you're being stubborn with these big hitting picks, because you're losing out on some massive points elsewhere as well. Up front, I have 194 points from Kane, and I captained 8 times. I see that as a success. At least one of those picks that I trusted and something that I did right. I managed to get 91 points from Bamford, and I managed to get 114 points from DCL. DCL early season was one of the few calls that I actually got right this season. So that was something I was happy with. So I think the big problem that I have is with my midfield picks, where I missed out on those good, regularly performing template big hitters. And I also missed out on all the streaks that were there for the taking. I missed out on Dallas. I missed out on Gundogan's hot streak. I missed out on Lingard's hot streak. I missed out on Souček's hot streak at the start of the season. So I wasn't, you wrote that beautiful article this season, Zoff, about form. And, there's a certain swag and an aura. And I kept thinking that, no, he's not going to continue. He's not going to continue. And this season has primarily been about form. So, if 2 weeks also you've lost out on those points, I don't want to be too stubborn, and I just want to dive in next season. If it looks like it's sustainable, if it looks like the tactics of the team suit that. I mean, when it comes to Gundogan, the underlying numbers were there for him. The tactics that City employed once De Bruyne got injured was indicating that Gundogan is going to score these points, and I did not go there. So that's something I want to change. I don't want to try being too over smart with these picks. So yeah, that's something that comes to my mind. Trying too hard too early. I mean, not going with Mo Salah game week 1 was probably the stupidest decision I made early season, and I spoke about it in the article as well, because I was overconfident after the finish that I had last season, and my mindset making all these narratives, where I was able to afford one extra big hitter if I let go of Salah, and I put too much money in Chelsea game week 1, and I went in with Kai and Timo. So I think you need to balance it out, and I'm going to follow FPL Salah's advice and probably go with slightly safer picks. I'll have a punt or two in there, but the team doesn't need to be full of punts early season.
Should we go to your success ratio?
Sorry, yes, we can go to the success ratio now. I think that's what I can remember from this season. This just indicates, the amount of success I've had with clean sheets, 43%, which I think is pretty decent. It's in concurrence with your clean sheet numbers as well. My goal percentage is 30%, which is, I think, around 4 or 5% lesser to yours. So I'm also not too unhappy about that. The problem is the assist, where there's an 8% difference between my numbers and your numbers off. So I need to, and that's one of my weaknesses as an FPL player, because I pay too much attention to just goals. I don't pay attention to returns, which is goals plus assists. So I need to look at that more closely. My captaincy success rate has been 55%, can be a lot better. I need to be a little less punty and go more with midfielders as well next season, I reckon.
Did you make a lot of transfers in defense? Because I noticed we have a similar success ratio for clean sheets, but the maximum defender who got was, I think, around 60, which is not very high. Yeah. So that means you didn't really stick around in your defense. You moved them around a bit.
Yeah. Probably. And I mean, I want to talk about forwards, but not probably captaining them and captaining midfielders more, but that all changes if Harry Kane is going to Man City, which looks.
Did you watch that that thing on the golf course which him and Gary Neville talked, that FPL overlap? Did you watch it?
No, I saw his comments. Yes, that one.
What really struck me, and Kane said, I think I can go up to another level. I don't see why I cannot hit the levels of Ronaldo, Messi, and go to 60, 70 goals a year. I don't want to finish my career and realize that I don't have that in my locker. And can you imagine if he goes to Man City? I think he's going to break Salah's 32 goal record.
Yep.
He could.
He will. I don't see how he won't, right? Because I think he'll be starting almost regularly under Pep. So I don't see how he would It's basically Aguero who can start in all the matches. It's crazy.
Yep. It's crazy.
It's going to kill it for sure.
If he goes there. I mean, it's all speculation at the end of the day. Bakar, why don't you talk us through your season in the analysis?
So the first thing that strikes me.
Can you read out the team first, only for the audio?
Sure.
Sorry.
I have Martinez in my team of the season, Cancelo, Shaw, Stones, Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Son, Gundogan, Calvert-Lewin, and Watkins. So that's my 11. The first thing that strikes me is the lack of Kane, which is borderline shocking, but borderline shocking to anyone who's following me right now. But over the course of the season, most of those people who followed me are aware of the fact that I haven't really owned Kane. That's primarily not because of the fact that I didn't rate him, but it's primarily due to the fact that I invested more money in midfield and defense this season. You can see Robertson in my team, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Salah, Son. So I mean, I've invested in those kind of guys, and I hoped for long periods of time that they would help me cover Kane, because I have a tendency of captaining midfielders personally. That's such as my play style that I don't generally like captaining forwards. So in most weeks, I go for the likes of Salah, Son, or Fernandes, or even De Bruyne in some cases this season. In fact, the first time I owned Kane this season was in Game Week 29, which is absolutely shocking. And that too on my free hit. So other than that, I mean, Watkins did a good job. Salah, Son, Fernandes, they were all good. Martinez I owned from his very first game, in which I got that 15-pointer of his, which was easily my best moment of the season. So yeah, I mean, I will keep this in mind next season. Not to get too worked out worked out about structure, because that's something which I have focused on this season, and I regret it to a certain degree.
So I
Okay,
just
you did not jump on Diash. I don't see him in your team. You didn't
I
jump
did
on him.
have Diaz, but I think post game week 23, 24 though,
yeah,
which was a bit late. I had Stones
Stones
for
for
majority
longer.
of the season for
I
that, yeah.
remember.
And Cancelo, I have like 78 points from Cancelo, and genuinely I think I've been robbed of at least 30 to 40 points by his underperformance. I have no regrets in picking him, because the decision making, in my opinion, was right. It's just the fact that it didn't turn out the way it should have, and the same goes for Shaw. I mean, Shaw has he's had the numbers, but he hasn't really hauled the way he should have, given how impressive his numbers have been. It's just been unfortunate.
So
You know, Bakar, what I noticed here is you managed to get 500 plus points from Salah and Bruno. I managed to get 350 points approximately from these two guys, and then I don't have any other midfielders who scored above 100 points. And you have De Bruyne, Son, and Gundo with 100 plus points as well. You were early on Gundo this season.
Yes,
you
I
got him
got
from
him
West
in
Brom. You got from West
yes, I
Brom.
got him in for West Brom, and I had him till game week 33, maybe game week 34. I had him for a while, and he's served me well.
So what I
I've been
noticed,
happy with his
you've
points.
captained these 5 guys in midfield 30 times out of
Exactly,
what
that's what I'm
37.
saying. I generally tend to captain midfielders, and I don't think I will be changing that too much next season. But I'll probably make sure that if someone's banging them in like Kane, then
Yeah, if Kane goes to
I
City, then
I,
that's
I think
then
if Kane
exactly
goes to
this
City,
won't be.
that might change.
Yes, that will have to change definitely. Yeah. That can't really continue.
cool. So let's move to your success ratio.
Yeah, so clean sheets have been low. I've had 38.55% success ratio in terms of my clean sheet, but I put it down to the fact that I like picking explosive defenders. So I don't really mind that too much. For example, I've had Digne for long parts. My faith in Robertson and Trent has really backfired this season. So which is why this has been low. I you know I like picking defenders with assist or goal potential. So I mean, for example, that is why one of the reasons I didn't own Diaz initially was because I fancied someone like Cancelo. Other than that, I mean, goals percentage is 32.72, which is average, I guess. Assists is 20.59. Bonus is 24.83, and captaincy is 57.78. Captaincy is again somewhere in between you and late riser, which is average, I
So
guess.
what is your process normally while picking a captain? Maybe something we can talk about.
I look at the stats and I look at the odds, and then if uh, if I assume that everything else is equal, and if it's a 50-50, then I go and captain the midfielder.
I
That's
call
how.
bullshit. I know your process, Bakar. You're so involved in writing your review and you're so exhausted after writing that review. So it's that panic last 1 hour decision where you're finally paying attention to your own team and talking to us and figuring what to do. I mean, my advice to you would be
AKA
to
cause of.
That's been true, but even Zofford would agree to quite a large extent that I usually don't. I'm usually not that uncertain about my captaincy picks most of the weeks.
It's not.
I'm
It's the
more uncertain
transfers.
about that.
It's more about
Yeah,
the
it's
transfers.
usually exactly. It's usually the transfers that I tend to ignore with my own
no, but
team. But
you
with
know
the
what
captaincy, I'm more or less
advice
set about.
I'd give you then is when you're actually focused in and writing your reviews, right? What I'd reckon is on your laptop screen, have your team open, and while you're looking at those numbers so closely and you're so in the zone, just note down your transfer on a piece of paper, because you're actually then relying on your instinct at that time without having any cloudiness in your brain at that time. I reckon that might work for you. When you're in the zone, put your team on as well.
And don't
Okay,
look only by
no
stats,
callings
right?
off next season.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Nobody
what do you
believes
say?
you.
What do you say?
He said no callings off next season. Rubbish. Rubbish. Game week 1, we call it 10 minutes before deadline. Bro.
Game week 1 or Euros game week 1?
No. Euros, I'm not taking your call. Right, let's just quickly jump into my team. So yeah, Martinez I think has been a common theme for all of us. I got him in at game week 9. But yeah, the City lads were the heroes for me. I got jumped on them very early. Diaz and Cancelo both. So they account. So sorry, I forgot to run through my team. So Martinez, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent. In midfield, Salah, Fernandes, Son, De Bruyne, Gundogan. Then up front, Kane and Calvert-Lewin. The bench, McCarthy, Bamford, Soufal, Shaw. So one thing I noticed, all of the right off the bat, except Calvert-Lewin, all these guys are from the so-called top 6 teams, and Martinez, of course. So I think generally I've shown a lot of faith in these guys from these big teams rather than the teams around them. Any comments, guys?
I mean, your defensive double up early season on Man City for me is probably one of your best calls of the season.
Yes, that was the game changer. That was the game changer at a point when none of us had any City defense, nor we were even considering them. I think that was where Zoph's season really changed.
Yeah, and he caught that
Good call.
very, very early. I remember that he was one of the first pods, I think, and one of the first guys to catch that, okay, these guys are actually playing in a defensive manner this season.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Zoff just doubled up on the defense immediately, and I think that's kept his team going. You know, when you have a couple of defenders in your team going, giving you clean sheets week on week, your floor for your team is already so high because you have reliable assets doing that for you. So I think that's been one of your best calls of the season, Zoff.
Definitely. Just because stick and forget, it takes care of 2 slots, and even if your rest of your team doesn't perform, you have that backbone. So it's something I'm going to take into next season as well. And this is a strategy I always adopt. I tend to have 3 big hitters in my defense. So, but that does mean you miss out. I missed out on Dallas all of the season, because ultimately I like having the defenders from the top 6 teams.
Got it. Well, how do you think City plays next season?
It remains to be seen. I think Kane is a big unknown. Crowds are a big unknown. I think this was pandemic ball. Pep changed his play style. I think he will be back to a bit more expansive style next year with crowds back and more of a regular schedule.
Yes, I think especially if he manages to clinch that UCL title, because it's stuck in my head that just all of the season has been a rehearsal for him to win that Champions League game.
I would love to ruin that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just generally talking about how Pep's mindset would have worked. Yeah, it was all practice for getting that getting to that Champions League final and getting that win. So probably if he managed to win that UCL title, I reckon he will, put down the handbrake and go for it again. Because we've had a team I think that's also worked in your favor, because I remember Pod 1, we were talking about that. And one of your problems in the past couple of seasons is dealing with Pep Guardiola and the rotation there.
Correct.
Because you like to have those steady, good, solid picks, who have a great floor. And there was no City attacker there for the taking this season, except for that hot streak from Gundogan.
And De Bruyne, early on.
Very early on. Even De Bruyne failed to impress for a long, long time, where he managed to miss chance after chance inside the D, if you remember.
Correct, but he still got assists. I remember 2 or 3 home games, I got good returns. Like you even see over here, from De Bruyne, I've got 110 points from captaining 6 times.
Zoff, did you own Sterling at any point this season? Because
no, I didn't buy him at any point this season.
Exactly. Me and LR were high on him at different points this season. And I mean, initially he did okay, but overall he was a bit of a failure. So that didn't work out. That was another exceptional move by you, ignoring Sterling at a point where their fixtures were great, and it was really looking as if a City attacker was more or less needed.
And that's why, the thing is, that's what you LR absolutely nailed it on the head. The large reason for last 3 seasons where I've not invested heavily in the City assets, because I don't trust them to play every game, and then Sterling banks 20 points, 24 points, stuff like that. So this year, the only nailed guys in the City team were in defense. And I was able to identify that and jump on the defense then. I think I've shown a lot of faith in Salah also this season. I think 294 points, just cycling back to you guys. Bakar's 266 from Salah. LR is 190. So yeah, Salah has really been my go-to. 246 from Bruno. Let's see, you're similar. So Bakar, I think our styles are a little bit more similar in terms of the players we're picking.
I see you jumped early in Gundogan as well. So you have a decent sizable.
Same time as you, West Brom.
Exactly.
None of us had Kane and Son very early season, right? When they went absolutely crazy.
Because of that Europa League thing, right? Remember that they had a lot of fixtures and a pile up. I think we all avoided them early on.
It was insane, because I was actually just looking at those stats.
I'm surprised to see not to see Grealish or Watkins in your team. I was expecting them to be in there because you've owned them for large parts.
No, Watkins.
Sorry, Grealish particularly.
Yeah,
you didn't own Watkins, right?
No, I owned Watkins only for 3 weeks. That week when he missed that penalty, I rate sold.
Okay. Yeah, I've had Watkins from right after the Liverpool game, and I don't think I've sold him ever since.
So I've been lucky in terms of goalkeeper spots also. If you add that up, 140 to 133, that's with McCarthy. That's 177 points. That's more than I've got from the goalkeeper spot in any season so far.
Yeah, I was reading your tweet also where you mentioned that only 4 keepers have played all games this season. That's such an insane stat. That's something that we've not had any season. It was you that tweeted it, right? If I remember correctly.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, that's it, I think.
Success ratio also just a bit more on clean sheets. I don't want to dawdle now. We should move on to the next section. Captain slightly more, 60%. Bonus, assist goals. Pretty similar, just slightly higher than you guys in those aspects.
Except your captaincy was pretty good, I reckon.
60% is very good.
Yeah.
27 out of 45. But yeah, that's again placing faith in the big hitters, right?
Yep.
Cool.
All right, let's move on to Game Week 38 now.
Game Week 38, yep.
I think you want to show the next slide first.
Yes.
Zoh.
Goals.
So generally what's happened in the league is in Game Week 38, there are games where we see 5, 6, 7 goals even. Sometimes then the key is to trying to identify those games where we might see a lot of goals. And generally those goals are there in those games where there's not much at stake because people are playing what I like to call loosey-goosey football. And we've seen that as a trend in the past 5 seasons as well, where we've seen that the season average for goals has been somewhere between 2.7 to 2.8, but the Game Week 38 average for most cases has been around the 3.3, 3.5 mark as well. So, if you're spending transfers this week, I think you want to spend transfers in attack. Obviously, if you don't have nailed down defenders and you want to change that up, fair enough. But we've generally seen that the trend is that there are going to be fewer clean sheets and more goals, and potentially there's some braces and hat-tricks in there as well, because generally that's been the trend for the past few years. And what we're going to do now is probably look at it game by game and see what we're expecting off from that game. So it's going to be like a fixture-wise analysis.
Correct.
So let's talk about Arsenal versus Brighton first. Bakar, how do you see that game going?
It's a tough one to call. I think I think Brighton will give Arsenal a good game. I can probably see it being a score draw.
But do you feel like it should be a game where FPL managers should go for punts? I mean, I reckon it's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to be particularly high scoring because Brighton are pretty good. But
Brighton have a good defense. I mean, I don't think FPL managers should target this fixture. Ideally, no, I won't suggest it.
No, because a lot of people online, there are some stats flying around where Oba tends to do really well in Game Week 38, and he scored braces and goals on many occasions in Game Week 38. But I just don't see it. I thought he was toothless in that previous game. Who did they play? Arsenal,
they won, right? They just beat Palace. They beat Palace.
Panther Club. The funny part is they might actually finish the season above Spurs. Were you expecting that at any point?
That's their trophy.
It's absolutely nuts that they're going to finish above Palace. But I mean, their season has turned, and they've done it quietly. When Odegaard has, come into play and ESR has been starting for that team as well. But even in that game previously, they had 3 shots on target and they managed to score goals with those shots as well. If at all somebody had to punt when it comes to Arsenal, the one I fancy is Pepe, but I wouldn't go here as a priority game. I think Brighton as a defense have good underlying numbers, and I just don't fancy it.
I'm not averse to the idea of Aubameyang personally because his odds this game week are actually pretty good. But I don't know. There's something about Arsenal which I just can't rely on Arsenal this season. And there's someone in the chat who's also written that with fans allowed, Arsenal should that's actually bad for Arsenal. Fans allowed. So that's actually a very good point.
Right.
So I mean, I just can't bring myself to go there personally.
Right. So what I'm going to ask you guys in every fixture which you go through, I want you to tell me, are any players worth a hit for Arsenal Brighton? Do you think so?
No.
Me neither. No. It's unpredictable. I think it's like
any player worth a free transfer also. I mean, just any punts that you like.
I guess we can talk about both.
I mean, it's a bit tricky because if you're chasing in your mini league and let's assume that your rival is 30 points ahead of you and you have nothing to play for and you have to go gung-ho, then I mean, I'm not exactly against the idea of captaining Aubameyang, but it's something I won't do.
I mean, he's done nothing this season. He's not even showcased
Nothing.
I test for 5 minutes. Like he's done nothing.
He's been very
I-
poor, yeah.
And I'm expecting
very
Martinelli to play this game.
So yeah,
So
not for me.
I think this is fixtures in general. What about Holding? Do you play Holding if you have him? He's quite popular.
I'm pretty sure that Brighton will score.
Yeah, I see Brighton scoring too. I think their spirits will be up.
There's no
after that
Maupay or
result against
Welbeck
Man
though.
City.
Keep in mind that there are two of the strikers are out, Maupay and Welbeck.
Maupay not being there is a good thing for Brighton. So let's get that out of the way first. But yeah, I wouldn't play Holding. I reckon there are better shots for clean sheets.
Fair enough. Villa Chelsea.
I think this
You
will be
tell
low
us.
scoring.
Your boys off.
Interesting. So this is a must-win game for us, right? And the thing is now, Villa, it was interesting because I remember last year as well as in the championship, they actually had a worse defensive record at home than they did away, which is natural. In front of the fans, they expect to attack. They come out a little bit more, and this is their first game with fans back. So traditionally, Villa against these big teams, they've been a bit more conservative, playing on the counter. I think so. It's an intriguing battle. I don't know how they'll approach this. Will they come at us, or will they prefer to stay back and play on the counter? With Grealish back, I think they might be a bit more on the front foot. So in terms of Villa players, I wouldn't necessarily bring in any Villa players. You could still play Watkins. I think Watkins could nick a goal in this fixture. Probably in terms Martinez, you play regardless. In terms of Chelsea, I think there's only Mount you can go for in the attack, and you can play your Chelsea defenders. I think we are going to play our first choice backline with Rudiger, Silva, and Aspie. Mendy, of course.
Who do you think plays in the first threes off? Come on, because I think some people might want to go.
It depends
here.
on if Havertz is fit. Havertz is rated as a doubt right now. So if he is fit, I think he might get a chance. But I think Timo will start. Mount will start. I think it's really the third spot that's up for grabs.
How was
What
that,
about left wing back? Who's going to play left wing back, Zoff, in your opinion?
Chilwell, without a doubt.
I think he's a very, very good differential. I think he has the differential with the most upside in this fixture.
Correct. We talked about it last part as well. I think Chilwell's a
Yeah.
decent shout, but I'm a bit worried that Villa will score.
Anybody in attack? You don't even fancy? I
Mount.
mean,
It's just Mount.
not Werner yet.
Not this season. Maybe next year.
I want to ask you, what do you make of him as a Chelsea fan from Timo Werner this season? Genuinely want to ask you.
I think what's interesting is he's actually got a decent number of goal contributions in terms of goals and assists, but he's going to be remembered for his misses more so. But I think what he does, is are very good things. He gets himself in the right areas. He's a constant nuisance, and he's very integral to the way we play. Teams can't press up as much with Werner making runs in behind. And you remember Suarez. Suarez, the year before, he just went off before he got the Spider-Man boost from biting Ivanovic. Before the season before that, he would be shooting a lot, but not scoring as much. So, so I'm hoping that, obviously, I don't expect him to hit the levels of Suarez, but if he can hit even 60-70% of that next year, I think he could be lethal.
Yeah, because the sheer pace that he has, he's able to, I think he just needs to, I think, look at the line of defense that is in front of him and not be offside, because he's got enough pace to take on any defender when it comes to the runs he needs to make. So I think once he sorts that out and he sorts his finishing out, I think there's a potential bargain for that. I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say there's a potential bargain. In terms of going for a punt when it comes to Villa Chelsea, I'm not really interested. I think it's going to be a fairly tight game. Even if Chelsea go 1-0 up or 2-0 up, I don't think they're going to play expansive football, because you guys have so much on the line, right? So the games that have more goals, in my opinion, traditionally have always been those games where you have nothing on the line.
Play for. I'd agree. I'd completely agree with that. I wouldn't be in a rush to transfer any players from this fixture. The next one is
the only one I might consider is Chilwell.
Again, I expect Villa to score maybe. So it's not one.
I'm not sure, man. Your defensive stats are still exemplary. So it's 50-50. Even with Grealish, I'm not sure. I mean, Chelsea are second favorites for clean sheet odds this week, Zoff. You guys are only behind Liverpool.
Maybe I'm being too cautious in my optimism.
I think you're being a bit biased.
I mean, the only reason Zoff is saying that is because Grealish is back, I think. So Villa are a different team when Grealish
the thing is,
back.
Villa with these big teams, they've actually done better than they have against teams around them. They've actually done well against the big sides. That's what worries me.
It suits their style of play. Especially with Grealish in the team, it suits their style of play, because the transition is so quick with him in the team. So it's probably one of the reasons why I mentioned. But I'm with Bakar. I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea keep a clean sheet. If you own a Rudiger or a Chilwell or a Chelsea, definitely play him.
Yep. Let's talk about the next
But,
one. Fulham Newcastle.
I just want to say that a lot of people are looking at those Chelsea attackers for punts. I'm not hot on them because I think there are more goals in other games,
They're better
like the
options.
one that Zoff is going to talk about.
Right now, Fulham Newcastle. This is Fulham's first game in front of fans. Now Newcastle. I was just reading the press conferences. I think ASM should be fit for this one. I think Willock is a great option as well. Fulham were actually decent against Man United, right?
They were decent and we were poor. I think it was a mixture of both things. We weren't exactly great in that game either.
Interesting.
Yeah, Willock is the only one I'd probably look at.
6 games.
Did 6 games in a row. Did you see ASM beating the record for the most number of triples? He was on something in that game. There was no end product, but he kept dribbling past players, non-stop. I think Sukraj in our WhatsApp chat was mentioning that he's just going for that most dribbles.
Yeah. I noticed it at halftime that he has completed 11 dribbles by himself. The Spurs team against Villa had done 7.
Yeah.
I have a decision to make between Areola and Martinez this week, and I think I'll probably go with Areola.
A good question. Where would you go, LR? I think you have the same setup, right?
I have the same setup as well. I haven't thought about it. But this is one of those games where I won't be surprised to see an odd 3-all, 2-3 sort of a scoreline, because both teams have really nothing to play for. They can just, go out there and put on a show. They don't really need to defend. So if I had to call one of those games where there could be goals, I think this one is the one that strikes out to me. So
it does. I like this one as well. So would you guys think Willock is worth a free transfer?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
against it last week, but I was wrong. I think it's worth a shot, and also it's going to be in his mind, right, to equal Shearer's record in terms of having the most number of games scoring consecutively, and he's not going to be able to do it next season. Arteta mentioned that he's probably coming back to Arsenal. So
I didn't know about the Shearer record. That's interesting.
Yeah. So 7 is the highest number of consecutive goals in which somebody from Newcastle has scored. And Willock is aware of that record. He mentioned it in his match of the day interview as well. I saw that. So that's something that's probably going to be on his mind as well.
Interesting. So yeah, I think Willock is probably the player to target from this fixture. I don't see anybody from Fulham. I think now the next team is really we need to devote a large chunk of our time. I'm definitely interested. Leeds, West Brom.
Yeah. Interesting one. I mean, if you don't own Bamford or Rafinha, definitely players to go for. Somebody in SuperChat just said Bakar manages to land a date before the season ends, then I think having Wood is absolutely essential. I think you need to quintuple captain Chris Wood then, because it's manages to land a date happened way back in the day, bro. So yeah, I just want to say that. Leeds versus West Brom. What do you think, Bakar?
I think this has the potential to be one of the highest scoring matches of the game week. I think Rafinha, Bamford, in particular, they can go big. In particular, Bamford. A lot of people have been asking whether they have a choice to pick one of Rafinha or Bamford this week. I think Bamford is the one to go for. I was going through the stats in West Brom over the past 2 matches.
Did we lose him?
I think so. I think we did. But I think he's
Can
back
you hear
now.
me?
Now we can.
Yeah, now we can hear. Yeah, go on. In the last 2 matches, you were saying stats.
I was saying that in the last few matches, West Brom have conceded by far the worst expected goals ever since relegation has been confirmed. While Leeds are, during the same spell, they're best for XG from open play, among the top 3 for XG from open play. So I can see goals in this one. West Brom during this calendar year, they've conceded almost 40% of their chances down the middle, and they don't tend to concede too many chances from the wings as compared to down the middle. So I'm pretty sure that this is a fixture which Bamford will like. He's on penalties. West Brom have conceded the second highest amount of penalties this calendar year. Bamford, if your rival doesn't own him and you're chasing a mini league deficit, is a great option.
Zoff? Frankie? Is Frankie making an appearance?
No, sorry. I'm completely starving. I had to get something in my face.
All right, fair enough. What do you think about Dallas? Zoff is looking at a defender at the moment, Bakar, and he's debating Dallas, Robertson, and maybe Cresswell. So do you reckon he should go for Dallas above the other two?
Dallas, well, he is explosive, and I like picking explosive players at this stage of the season. I have a feeling West Brom will score though, so it's. If I was in Zoff's position, I'd probably go with Robertson because the clean sheet is more secure.
So
Yeah.
right, so let's talk about the defense first. Like Dallas, glad you brought him up. It was interesting. Did you see Sam's post-match interview? He was pissed off with Antonio, and just pissed off with how
Yeah.
teams are labeling, like him particularly, a manager who only gets teams out of relegation, a guy who only plays long ball football and all that stuff. So I found it weird that they made that announcement game week 37. They could have probably made that announcement 1 week later. So I think
But,
go ahead.
but then Sam wouldn't have gotten to ask for a job in that post-match interview either.
Right.
I mean, that was just a shambles, that entire thing.
Right. So, like you
That was a
said,
bit embarrassing.
a lot of West Brom players would learn to put themselves in the shop window. So this might have goals in it. But the problem is Dallas is not really a defender. Dallas is essentially a midfielder. And even when he was playing wing back in this 3-3-1-3 against Southampton, he had two very good chances. Once he had a very good McCarthy save. So I'm quite worried about not owning Dallas's EO is I think close to 70%. And it's not impossible to see him bagging 15-pointer, 12-pointer or something in this fixture.
Yep, with the narrative of the season, and I think they'll be pumped up for it, right? I mean, first time they're playing in front of the crowds, and but the only thing I want to mention, I don't think it's going to have an influence on the game, is that Llorente is unfit for this game, and the Leeds defensive record is turned around once Llorente has been a part of that team. So that's something worth mentioning. And people who are looking at Rodrigo as a punt, I'm not sure he's going to play this game because Bielsa spoke about Hernandez leaving the club, and he might get a swan song in front of the fans. I probably see him starting this game as well. So I'm not entirely sure about Rodrigo as a punt this week. So the only players I'd look at are probably Alioski if you want to go cheap, Dallas, Rafinha, and Bamford in this game. But Leeds is where I'd look at first because, again, like that Fulham Newcastle game, this is one of those games where I won't be surprised to see 4, 5, 6 goals.
Correct. I think out of all the 10 fixtures, this is the fixture I like the most in terms of targeting. It's the first.
I own Pereira this week, and I'm very certain to be playing him.
Cheers. It's not a bad shot at all.
Yeah, because he's one of the guys I think who, out of the entire West Brom squad, I think him, Ajayi, Johnstone are probably the most likely to stay in the Premier League. Maybe Diagne.
Yeah. And Pereira is, I mean, some of the big clubs should look at Pereira. That's how good he's been for West Brom this season. He's
Maybe Spurs.
perfect fit for Spurs. That's Spurs or Arsenal. I think one of those
Or
clubs.
Villa if Grealish goes somewhere.
Yeah, fair shout.
Right, so now let's talk about Bamford a little bit. A lot of us have like Calvert-Lewin or a United asset in that 7th or 8th attacker slot. So do you guys think it's worth taking a hit for Bamford? Let's say if you have to play somebody like Greenwood.
I'd
Bruno,
only
or
take a hit
DCL.
if I'd only take a hit if I were to captain Bamford. Let's assume that your rival doesn't own him and you're chasing the big deficit, then I'd go that route. Otherwise, I think there's potential for Calvert-Lewin to score this week. I don't think City will be too tight at the back. They've been playing very expansively, so I don't think. And Everton are generally good on the road, so I'm not too averse to the idea of playing Calvert-Lewin.
They're good on the road defensively, though. In terms of attack, they don't create that many chances. They only have like 1 or 2 like proper chances. So I'm not as confident. I think DCL is something like a 2-pointer. So I'm actually pretty bullish on the hit for Bamford. I think his ceiling is really high this week.
I'm with Bakar on this one. I mean, yes, but Bamford's ceiling is extremely high this week. But City have been conceding goals. They haven't been very tight in defense, So I'm agreeing, with Bakar, where they've been playing fairly expansive in terms of the football that they're trying to play. So
I do it for a free transfer, 100%.
I do it for the free transfer.
Yeah,
if you're
for a
looking for
hit,
a
I don't think
striker
so.
this week, number one choice to go to is Bamford. But I don't know if I'd take a hit for it.
See, it's interesting because I'm looking at I will get to my team when I talk about it. I want to bring in essentially Dallas and Bamford into my team, and I'll most likely be selling in place of, let's say, Shaw and Greenwood. DCL would be going out, so Greenwood would be getting benched. So essentially, do I play Greenwood and Shaw, or do I take a hit for Dallas? It could be Robertson as well. And Bamford, I think those two players can outscore the former by 4 points. And me,
yes, but Greenwood's not likely to play, right? Calvert-Lewin has a chance of scoring, so that's what the decision is based on.
Correct.
And in your case, it makes a lot of sense.
I'm very hit averse, and I think we've spoken on previous game weeks also, especially in game week 38. There's only one shot, one roll of the dice to repay the hit. But I think I'm more confident in the Leeds guys doing it than any other team, because 3, 4, 5, whatever the score is, they're still going to be gunning for it.
Yeah, agreed. If you're feeling it, go for it. You're talking me into it. I think it's a good shot. There's a potential for a double-digit haul there for Bamford.
And actually, like you said, I'm more confident on Bamford than Dallas, because like you said, West Brom might score.
Yep.
So
And there are some managers, I mean, this is a good segue into the next game, because there are some managers who might be owning both DCL and Iheanacho at the moment. And I saw that. Are we done talking about Leeds? Because I
think so. We can move into Leicester Spurs. You can just start this. I'm going to get some almonds to eat.
All right, fine. I just want to talk about Leicester versus Spurs. Spurs probably had their worst performance of the season in that game against Aston Villa. They were absolutely toothless. They showed nothing in that game, and I won't be surprised to see Leicester and Iheanacho grabbing a goal or two in this game, just because of how poor they were in defense. Ryan Mason is not a competent manager, so I quite actually fancy the Leicester assets, and especially if you own an Iheanacho in this game, I like him for this game. What do you reckon, Bakar?
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you. I think Iheanacho has even more potential than someone like a Kane this week. I was looking at the odds as well, and Iheanacho is very highly likely to score according to the odds. In fact, Kane and Son aren't even in the top 15 for anytime goal scorers, which is something which struck me straight away. For those managers who are looking to gain rank and gain a lot of ground, I don't think the Spurs assets have a ceiling this week, especially considering how much Leicester have to play for. So, I mean, I don't really like the idea of a Son and Kane double up this week.
Yeah. Would you sell Kane though? No, obviously not, right?
No, I mean, I'm sure people have other priorities. I won't sell Kane, but if you're chasing and I'm nothing to lose, then I'm not even averse to the idea of doing it for someone like a Bamford or Antonio.
Would you lose a Son or a Bale this week for somebody like a Mane, let's say?
If you have no other pressing issues, then absolutely, I do it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad shot as well. They showed nothing in that game. And Leicester, you'd expect Leicester to be very tight in that game as well, right? Because they can't afford to concede goals.
Yeah, I have Castana and I'm playing him. I won't be surprised if Leicester keep a clean sheet in this game.
Yeah, I think we all fancy Leicester in this game.
Iheanacho, I think, is a good captain shot if you have him as a differential. I think he's up there.
I don't know about captaincy again, Zoff, because it's one of those games where everything is on the line for Leicester, right?
Correct, but they need to winning. I guess a lot will depend at halftime how the Liverpool game is going. If the Liverpool game is they're winning, they might have to score. Ultimately, they need to beat Liverpool, I think, by three goals, the difference in GD. Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it depends on halftime, right? But the first step one for them is to get 3 points on the board. And when there is so much on the line, I don't see mad football, loosey-goosey, too many goals happening. You know what I'm saying? With regards to Iheanacho. So I think captaincy for Iheanacho is maybe taking it a stretch too far. I mean, I much prefer Bamford amongst the strikers for captaincy. I much prefer the Liverpool midfielders for captaincy. But I'm not sure about Iheanacho. That's all. But yeah, Spurs were terrible. I mean, that's something all three of us.
Would you sell any of their assets for a hit if you had to?
Not for a hit.
Still
too much quality in those players. I mean, yeah, the manager can do a poor job, but the players up front have quality.
Correct. Right. Let's move on to Liverpool Palace. A lot of interest in this fixture as well. I think Salah is going to be pretty much the template captain.
Yes, I think Salah and Trent, they have the highest upside this week. Palace on their left, they're very weak. Most chances conceded down that flank this calendar year. So Trent and Salah have a lot of potential this week. They'd be like the first two people I'd make sure I have in my team this week.
Yep. So let's talk about Robertson. Do you guys like Robertson as an option? His assist one quite lucky, right? Last game.
Yeah, I mean, just let's fill that out. Also, I managed to sell Robertson for a -4 so that I could accommodate Kane. And what a rubbish that was. But his assists were quite lucky. I mean, pass to pass and something like that. Wasn't expecting that based on the defensive form that Liverpool have shown in the past few games. But if I own Trent and Salah, and if I had to get a third player in this game, the player I'd probably go for is an attacker, whether that's Firmino or Mane, depends on the team structure. But Robertson would be my third option in terms of the player to go for.
Yeah, I agree. Santu Mane is quite a popular move. I think that's being discussed.
Mane captaincy is the differential move to go for if you're chasing rank, in my opinion.
Yeah. He has a good record against Palace, especially, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's got a good Gameweek 38 record as well.
Correct.
He generally tends to do well towards the end of the season. Imagine though if Roy Hodgson is able to pull off a result against Liverpool. I mean, because the club sacked him for not being able to reach the top four, and I think he's still a little bit bitter about that result. And he might want his team to put on a good show. I remember not recently in the past 2-3 years, but before that, Crystal Palace have been a little bit of a bogey team for Liverpool. But obviously they have too much. But I would love for this narrative to happen. I think it'd be great.
Right, anything more to talk? I think there's no point talking about Palace much over here. We can move on to Man City.
Yeah, I just want to mention that Liverpool, I mean, I think Salah is the best captaincy to go for if you are looking to, hold position, etc. And on paper as well, I mean, there is no two doubts about it. Salah is the best captaincy option this week. I think both of you will agree.
Agree. That's who I'm going for.
Easily. I don't think it's even close. But, I mean, there are certain people who have to sort of take risks. So for them,
so if you're chasing, I think we're in agreement. Mane is one of the better options.
The way I think about it is, if you aren't playing for rank and you have to chase, more than a 15-point target, then captaining someone else does probably make sense. You've got to take some sort of gambles to make that kind of deficit.
Yep. And Firmino, if somebody has a slot open in up front, would you go there? He's been doing well.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he has the upside. For me, it's all about upside differentials at this stage of the season. Firmino doesn't really fit that bill. I'd rather have Robertson over Firmino.
3 goals, three shots on target for Firmino.
And you'd rather have a Bamford in the striker slot if you prefer Bamford to a Firmino.
Even Iheanacho. I mean, let's say if you have Bamford,
I agree.
Antonio,
even Nacho, for sure.
Iheanacho.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So there, everybody has
City Everton is a difficult one to call. I think it all depends on the lineups. I wouldn't be plowing into any City assets unless you have some sort of definitive team news that they're starting.
I think there's a differential I really like for the City Everton game. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't get minutes in this game, and that's Kevin De Bruyne. Not spoken about too much. He's been training since before the previous game as well. And I fully expect him to get 70, 75 minutes to get some match rhythm. And not many people own him. We know the caliber of the player that De Bruyne is. So there's one differential I like. I've just got a feeling about De Bruyne and Gameweek 38. So if you're looking for a left field differential, you're not really feeling a Sadio Mane, I really like De Bruyne as a differential in that game against Everton.
I won't go there personally.
If he starts, he plays 50, 60
Pep
minutes.
has said, by the way, that Aguero is training. So you resume he's starting. He's another one, if you want to punt, then Kane to Aguero, captain is. I mean, these are moves I wouldn't normally recommend in a normal game week, but I mean, a lot of people are in tough situations this game week. So I mean, this is another calculated risk they can perhaps take.
Aguero for me is a nostalgia punt. I mean, and I say that being the biggest Aguero fan, right? So if you're doing it, you do it if you have nothing to lose this season.
Exactly.
I reckon, which is in my position. So, if Pep is telling me that Aguero is trained, I'm going to be monitoring his Instagram on that night before the game week 30 on Saturday night. And I'll probably throw him in, but I don't have anything to lose. So if you're talking about seriously trying to chase somebody, the punt that I really personally like is De Bruyne, because I'm expecting him to play 70, 75 minutes. And I think there's upside there. I think it's a very shrewd punt for game week 38.
Yep, fair enough. So we move on. I think DCL we've already discussed. There's no need to discuss DCL anything any further. You guys think he has potential? I don't.
Sheffield United, Burnley. Chris Wood is a good pick. Let's move on.
Let's actually, let's because we already hit an hour. I wanted to keep this under an hour. We've already gone well over. So West Ham, Southampton. I think
again, Antonio Lingard, excellent options this week. Soufal in defense is a decent shout as well.
But not when you buy it, right? I don't think you'll be investing in the defense because they look so.
Yeah, not exactly. Yeah, but Lingard, Antonio, if you don't have them, I think they have upside. They're worth buying.
I think Antonio,
do they have anything to play for West Ham?
They do. They can still. Yes. I think Europa League isn't clinched. I think, right? They need a draw.
They need a draw. Exactly. To avoid the qualifier, they have to win. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, fine. So they do have something to play for again. So it's something on the line. So I don't see them going berserk with the amount of goals they score. But Zoff, actually, for your defensive shout out, if you have the money for a Cresswell, I don't mind that shout at all, because I think Southampton were done in that performance against Leeds United. Leeds ran them ragged. They'll be fairly tired, and Moyes will want to keep this game very tight. He's on set pieces as well. He looked pretty good in that game also. So you're considering Dallas and Robertson. I actually think clean sheet chances for a West Ham look good. I think they're back to the best. All the guys who generally play in the first team are back
Rice
as well.
and all are back, but I don't know. They've not kept a clean sheet in what 7 or 8 matches consecutively, Bakar, something like that, right?
Yeah,
but right. Do you remember the previous game? I mean, he managed to get a cross on the corner. He managed to hit the post also from a free kick. I just think Cresswell is an overlooked option for
That's
you.
fair enough. It's a good differential option, I think. And if you had to choose, if you choose between one of Antonio or Lingard, which way would you lean? Antonio, same.
Antonio for me as well. Yeah,
me too. I think Antonio is a differential captain shout as well. I think
I do think I do think this game has the potential to be high scoring though. I think if I were to pick 3 games to be one of the highest scoring of this game week, Leeds West Brom we've already spoken about. West Ham Southampton would be my number 2, because I do think that with the fans back, West Ham, they've had a good season. They have a feel good factor about them. Southampton, they haven't really been that great this season. I can see West Ham going big here. And
I think
the third one would be Wolves Man United. I think that's another game I'd expect a high scoring game in.
If they're scoring a couple of goals, Bakar, West Ham, in this game, I think they'll look to consolidate that lead and hold ground. And I think it's going to be a defense first approach for Moyes if something is on the line here. Which is why I actually think it's a very good shout for Zoff, who's looking for a defender in the market right now. So just wanted to add that.
Fair enough.
Let's move on to the last one, Wolves Man United. And as the chat has pointed out to us numerous times, this is...
yeah, we know. We read the chat. Nuno has left the room.
Is leaving the room. That's his last game.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that.
A Spurs move on the cards?
I mean, who else? Nobody else wants to go near Spurs.
Yeah. Potter would have been the ideal.
Doherty could be an option again next season if that happens.
Yeah, all right. Doherty at wingback. That's a good show.
Very interesting. But yeah, when it comes to United, I mean, I've been hearing some. I mean, I read an MEN article where they spoke about possibly, Lee Grant starting as keeper, and they spoke about Dan James. Solskjaer spoke about Dan James being involved in this game, and he spoke about getting minutes in the legs of those that haven't had too many minutes. So I'm not feeling very confident about our first team starting. And even if they do start, 60 minutes tops. So there's nothing to play for. Second place is secured as well. So I'm not big on United assets.
Yeah, so his quote was, you want to go in with loads of energy, but also confidence. We'll make a few changes versus Wolves, freshen up a few minutes into legs of those who might need it. The last line is a bit interesting.
Exactly. I think...
Who is he referring to?
Hela?
He was just referring to Dan James, probably somebody like Matic who hasn't played too much, probably Mata who hasn't played too much. Marshall is not in the squad this season, this game week, and he's trying to be fit for the final. So he's not going to be a concern. So you'd expect maybe 2 of Greenwood, Cavani, Rashford, Bruno to play.
Rashford, I'm a bit doubtful because ultimately the turnaround is really short for Rashford, right? Really same thing with Cavani. I don't think he'll mess around with Cavani much. So, like we're expecting, we don't expect Greenwood to start the final, right?
Yep.
So, would you stick with Greenwood? Let's assume we don't get any team sheets, don't get any team news now. This is a dilemma I have, which a lot of people might also have, is like, do you risk Greenwood or do you do a DCL to Bamford and bench Greenwood?
For a hit is what you're talking about, right?
Let's talk about both scenarios. Let's talk about for a free or for a hit. Would you risk benching Greenwood? Neither scenario.
He wouldn't be let's just say he wouldn't be my priority transfer out. Greenwood.
I'm not confident personally on Greenwood starting. I'm really not sure. Like, if I had no other pressing concerns, I'd probably sell him.
Because interesting.
I don't really think. I don't really think he's enough for ceiling as well. I'm not sure.
Right, because also the supporting cast is going to be missing, right? Who's going to create?
Exactly. That's what I was going to come to. So it's going to be a bit of a problem. Even if he starts, he doesn't really have that much of an upside.
All right, cool. We mentioned that. I think that news is what you need to watch out for the most. If I do manage to get any news, I'll be happy to share it. But that's the news. I think there might be indications closer to deadline when it comes to the United team specifically. So that's something to watch out for.
Right. So let's just.
Are we done with
I-
the fixtures?
anything else? Anything else you guys want to add?
Nope, nothing. Just Pep mentioned that Aguero's been training for the past couple of days. So for those that have nothing to lose, and if he served you well, I probably might just go there, get him and captain him because I have nothing to lose. So just enjoy the final day of the season. That's it. But I think we're all on the same page. Salah's a standout captain, and the chasing captain is probably somebody like a Bamford or a Mane that we like. I quite like De Bruyne as a shout, not for captaincy, but I think it's a good differential to go for. Nothing else. I think that sums it up.
Right. So let's just quickly go through our teams. I have to go have some issues to attend to at home. So
Alright,
let's just
cool.
walk through.
Yeah, I'll quickly go through my team for the benefit of the listeners. I have Martinez as my keeper at the moment. I have Areola as my bench keeper. I might switch that up. Actually, I'll just let Martinez be there because he's done well for me this season, and I'll just stick him in there. In defense, I have Shaw, Trent, Alioski, and Rudiger. In midfield, I have Fernandes, Rafinha, Salah, and Greenwood. And up front, I have Wood and Kane. On my bench, I have Smith Rowe and DCL. I'll probably find a way to fund DCL to Aguero and probably do it through downgrading somebody like a Bruno. So that's where I am at the moment. I think I'm going to make up my decision closer to deadline. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment.
Cool. Bakar?
So I have Areola in goal. Shaw, who I don't think will play, so probably Konza will come in for him. Trent, Castan, Lingard, Pereira, Salah captain, Rafinha, Antonio, Kane, and Calvert-Lewin. I have Mahrez on the bench at the minute because I don't really think he's going to start. But I'll probably end up starting him because I don't think he's going to be at risk of a bench appearance if he does get benched. The transfers I'm thinking with regards to my own team is I'm probably thinking it's a simple move from Calvert-Lewin to Bamford because I want to catch that upside with Bamford. I don't really want to take a hit, and I will probably end up starting Areola because I think Konza will come in for Shaw anyway. So that's what I'm thinking in regards to my team. What do you guys think I should do?
Good move. I like it.
Yeah.
Could you repeat? What were you planning to do?
DCL to
Calvert-Lewin to
Bamford
Bamford.
for free.
For free, and yeah, you could have Konsa sub in for sure. That's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can take a hit, but then again, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, similar situation as me, whether you take the hit for like the defender or not.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, so my team is just Martinez in goal, Rudiger, Shaw, Trent, midfield, Rafinha, Lingard, Salah, Son, Greenwood, forwards, Kane and Antonio. On my bench, I have Saiz, Calvert-Lewin, White. So yeah, that's like I explained to multiple times. So I have to decide whether to like bring in Bamford for DCL and bench Greenwood, or like get in Dallas or Robertson for Shaw in that spot. So
I take the hit in your case.
I think I will be taking the hit.
Yes, I think I would.
Right. Guys, let's wrap up. I have to get going.
All right. So, okay. Guys, I've clocked your super chat. I'll be answering that on Twitter. Zoff needs to go. There's something that's up. So thank you for being with us throughout this season. We appreciate your support. Apologies for ending this on a very quick note, but Zoff and me will be back with you next week with FPL Salah and Tom Freeman doing a post-season analysis spot. So we'll see you then. And that's it from us. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much for the support, guys. It's been a pleasure this season.
Thank you very much.
And hit the like button, those in the chat. Hit the like and subscribe button.